Imagine this, a quaint study bathed in the dim glow of a single desk lamp, the faint rustle of wind creeping through an open window, and there it hangs, a painting that seems to breathe with life. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than an old canvas depicting a mist-laden forest, its trees twisting in ghostly elegance. But as the hours pass and night envelops the room, something changes. Subtle at first, a shift in the shadow of a tree, a glimmer where there was none. But by morning, the painting is no longer the same. What would you do if the very picture on your wall seemed to rewrite itself, as though whispering secrets only it could understand? Tonight, we delve into the chilling mystery of such a painting, one that defies logic and reason. Who created it? For what purpose? And what dark truths lie hidden among its shifting strokes of color? This is not just art. It is a puzzle, a riddle meant to unsettle even the most skeptical of hearts. Stay with us as we unravel the eerie story of this cryptic painting, a tale that walks the line between reality and the unexplainable, where every answer seems to raise even more chilling questions. Now turning to the heart of our story, we meet Arthur Benson, a retired historian whose passion for unraveling enigmas has defined much of his life. Arthur is a man of precision, known for his methodical approach and an unwavering skepticism. Yet beneath his logical exterior lies a deep fascination for the unexplainable, a curiosity that has often led him into the shadowy corners of history where others dare not tread. It was on one unassuming afternoon in the quaint village of Chipping Norton, while wandering through a time-worn antique shop, that Arthur's next great mystery found him. Among a collection of forgotten relics and dusty heirlooms, his gaze fell upon a painting unlike any he had ever seen. It was a depiction of a mist-laden forest, its trees curling skyward with an almost otherworldly elegance. At the heart of the scene stood a lone, shadowy figure, its presence both captivating and unsettling. Arthur couldn't quite place what drew him in, whether it was the depth of the shadows, the haunting stillness of the forest, or the faint, almost imperceptible sense that the painting itself was watching him. His years of expertise in art history told him this was no ordinary piece. The brushwork carried a peculiar signature, one reminiscent of forgotten techniques he had encountered only in the rarest of historical records. Fueled by a cautious curiosity, Arthur decided to purchase the painting, unaware that this seemingly simple choice would become the beginning of a profound and chilling journey. With the next phase of the journey in sight, we arrive at Arthur's home, Ashgrove Manor, a sprawling estate tucked away in the quiet embrace of the countryside. The manor itself is a place where time seems to stand still, its grand stone walls weathered by centuries, whispering tales of the past with every creak of the floorboards. Dimly lit corridors stretch endlessly, their shadows dancing under the flickering glow of antique sconces. Arthur's study, the heart of this storied residence, is a haven for his lifelong fascination with history. Shelves groan under the weight of ancient books and artifacts, each piece a fragment of a story waiting to be told. And now, taking its place as the crown jewel of his collection, the mysterious painting commands attention. Hung above the heavy oak desk, its presence dominates the room, drawing the eye and igniting curiosity with its enigmatic allure. Yet, as fitting as the painting seems in this setting, there is a disquieting air that begins to weave itself into the fabric of the manor. Whispers of the estate's history come to mind, rumors of fleeting shadows seen where no one should be, objects found moved despite no one admitting to it, and an unshakable feeling of being watched in the stillness of night. It is in this already charged atmosphere that the painting's unsettling aura feels amplified, as if the old walls of Ashgrove Manor are all too familiar with the kind of mystery Arthur has unwittingly invited into his life. Now turning to the origins of this perplexing masterpiece, Arthur's research uncovers its roots in the shadowed life of Elias Greaves, a reclusive artist of the 19th century, whose name remains shrouded in whispers of the strange and otherworldly. Greaves was no ordinary painter. His works, though limited in number, possessed an unsettling magnetism, a quality that seemed to transcend mere paint and canvas. Local legends surrounding Greaves paint him as a man consumed by an insatiable curiosity for the supernatural, a passion that led him down paths few dared to tread. It is said that in his later years, his art grew darker, more enigmatic, as if reflecting an inner torment or perhaps a connection with something beyond human comprehension. Townsfolk from his native region whispered of a chilling pact he had forged with a mysterious figure, a bargain that, if true, granted him unparalleled artistic brilliance, but at a price few would dare to pay. Some accounts describe Greaves retreating entirely from society, emerging only to deliver his final, haunting creations before disappearing without a trace. The painting now in Arthur's possession is believed to be one of these cursed final works. Its exact journey from Greaves' studio to the present day is fragmented, yet what remains clear is the troubling pattern in its history. Stories abound of its previous owners encountering inexplicable misfortunes. One collector reportedly fell into financial ruin in days after acquiring it. Another claimed to hear soft whispers emanating from the painting during the stillness of night. And yet another spoke of recurring dreams that felt oppressively vivid, all centered on a shadowy figure wandering endlessly through an unearthly forest. It was as if the painting wove itself into their lives, leaving behind more questions than answers. These accounts, dismissed by skeptics as mere coincidence, only enhanced the painting's already menacing reputation. A curious detail that Arthur discovers is a peculiar symbol, often overlooked, that Greaves secretly embedded in all his later works, a cryptic mark resembling an intricate swirl enclosed in a jagged circle. This symbol, faintly visible in the bottom corner of the misty forest painting, seems purposeful yet bafflingly devoid of explanation. It is as if Greaves left breadcrumbs, subtle clues linking the painting to his broader exploration of the supernatural, inviting those who dared to uncover its meaning. Whether this was an act of arrogance, a cry for help, or something far darker remains unknown. However, one thing becomes increasingly clear to Arthur. This painting was not conceived as a mere piece of art to be admired. Its purpose feels deliberate, veiled in mystery, yet undeniably significant. With every detail Arthur unravels, the image of Elias Greaves solidifies in his mind, not just as an artist, but as a man seemingly tethered to forces beyond his control. This realization only deepens the enigma of what Arthur has unwittingly brought into Ashgrove Manor, setting the stage for the unsettling events yet to come. As the sun sets on the first night with the painting in its new home, Ashgrove Manor seems to embrace an unusual stillness, as if waiting in quiet anticipation. Arthur, after carefully positioning the enigmatic artwork in his study, spends hours admiring its haunting imagery. The mist-laden forest, the faintly discernible trees, and the shadowy figure at its center all seem to exude an unsettling allure, though Arthur shakes off the feeling as his imagination getting the better of him. The study, dimly lit by the soft yellow glow of a table lamp, casts dancing shadows on the walls, and before long, exhaustion from the day's events compels him to retire for the night. The following morning, however, Arthur's routine is interrupted by something he cannot immediately grasp. As he enters the study, his eyes are instinctively drawn to the painting. Something feels different. He steps closer, squinting, scanning every inch of the artwork. The elements of the scene are as he remembers them, or perhaps not. Is it possible the shadowy figure now stands slightly further to the left? Arthur's memory tells him otherwise, but doubt begins to creep in like a cold draft. He considers the possibility that the angle of light in the room might be playing tricks, or perhaps his recollection isn't as sharp as he'd thought. Still, no explanation seems wholly convincing. As the day progresses, Arthur finds himself repeatedly drawn back to the painting, unable to shake the feeling that something is amiss. Later that evening, he retrieves an old magnifying glass from his desk and carefully inspects every detail of the work. That is when he notices what appears to be a faint glow emanating from a tiny object nestled within the trees. A lantern, barely visible before but now unmistakable. He stares at it, the glimmer no brighter than a fading ember, yet its presence feels intrusive, deliberate, wrong. Arthur's pulse quickens. Surely he would have noticed this detail the night before. The unease in his chest grows heavier, but his logical mind protests. Could it be the position of the lamp, the way the glass interacts with the paint? Perhaps Elias Greaves had somehow applied a technique to create such an optical illusion. Yes, that must be it, he tells himself, though his words lack conviction. Despite his careful rationalizations, Arthur cannot entirely suppress a gnawing doubt. He begins to recount the whispered stories about the painting, tales dismissed as mere coincidence or overactive imaginations. Yet experiencing this strangeness firsthand makes those accounts uncomfortably plausible. As the evening drags on, his study feels noticeably colder, the weight of the atmosphere pressing on his shoulders. Arthur resolves to keep a closer watch on the painting in the nights to come, determined not to let his mind play tricks again. Unbeknownst to him, however, this is only the beginning of the unsettling transformations he is about to witness. As the next phase of the journey unfolds, Arthur begins to notice that he is not the only one showing an unusual interest in the painting. One morning, while sipping his tea near the study window, he catches a fleeting glimpse of Margaret Dawes, his neighbor from down the lane, lingering just outside the iron gates of Ashgrove Manor. Margaret is known around the village for her peculiar habits, always seeming to know more than she lets on, and often appearing in the most unexpected of places. Though her presence could easily be dismissed as coincidental, Arthur feels a strange unease watching her stare intently in the direction of his study window before hurriedly retreating down the road. Later, as he recalls her unusual behavior, he wonders if she might know something about the painting, or perhaps have her own reasons for keeping an eye on him. Not long afterward, Arthur finds his thoughts drifting back to Harold Murray, the eccentric antiques dealer who sold him the painting. Arthur remembers the hesitation in Harold's voice as he handed over the transaction receipt. Harold had almost seemed relieved to part with the artwork, muttering something cryptic about things best left untouched, before snapping the shop's ledger shut. At the time, Arthur had dismissed Harold's unease as the usual theatrics of someone trying to add an air of mystery to an already intriguing piece. Now, though, Arthur wonders if Harold's words carried more weight than he had initially realized. The memory gnaws at him, and Arthur resolves to pay the antique shop another visit in the coming days. Adding another layer to the growing enigma, Arthur recalls a name that came up during his initial research on Elias Greaves, Isabel Knight, a reclusive artist who had written extensively about the supernatural themes in Greaves' work. Isabel's name is whispered among art historians as someone with an almost obsessive understanding of his paintings. She is rumored to live alone in the countryside, surrounded by canvases depicting hauntingly surreal scenes, and has a reputation for being both brilliant and deeply cryptic. Arthur debates whether seeking her out might provide clarity, or simply lead to more questions. Her reclusiveness, combined with her rumored eccentricity, makes the prospect both intriguing and slightly intimidating. As Arthur pieces together these potential connections, the painting's hold on his life deepens. Could Margaret's lingering glances, Harold's reluctance, or Isabel's expertise hold the answers he seeks? Or do they too harbor their own secrets tied to the painting's sinister history? With these questions weighing heavily on his mind, Arthur finds himself poised on the brink of uncovering unsettling truths about the people around him, and perhaps about the painting itself. What he does not yet realize is that the answers he seeks may unravel more than he ever bargained for. With the next phase of the journey in sight, Arthur immerses himself in a meticulous investigation of the painting's origins. His days become consumed by hours spent in his dimly lit study, surrounded by stacks of brittle papers, weathered books, and obscure art catalogues. Each page he turns offers a potential breadcrumb, a clue that might lead him closer to understanding the cryptic piece hanging ominously on his wall. He scours the local library for any mention of Elias Greaves, hopeful that his expertise as a historian will unravel the threads of this enigma. Arthur even ventures into the dusty archives at the town hall, meticulously combing through century-old records that detail Greaves' life and his deeply peculiar works. It is during one of these late-night research sessions that Arthur stumbles upon an unusual document, an old letter attributed to Greaves himself. The letter is brief, but its tone is chilling, referencing a mysterious agreement and an ominous warning that his creations are tools of both beauty and burden. The cryptic phrasing leaves Arthur unsettled, but what strikes him most is the faint imprint of a symbol at the bottom of the page, nearly faded with time. The mark, a pattern that resembles an interwoven circle and triangle, is hauntingly familiar, tugging at Arthur's memory. Intrigued, he retrieves the painting from its place on the wall, his breath catching as he notices the same faint symbol etched almost imperceptibly into the lower corner of the canvas. It is barely visible, hidden within the shadows of the misty forest. Arthur's pulse quickens. This discovery feels like a key to the mystery, but it also raises more questions than answers. What could this symbol mean? Was it intentional, or merely an unnoticed detail? Arthur's mind races as he recalls the eerie accounts tied to Greaves' other works, stories of owners plagued by visions, unexplained whispers, and even ominous disappearances. The more Arthur pieces together, the more he begins to see a sinister pattern emerging. Each account he uncovers suggests that Greaves' artworks are far more than captivating images. They seem to act as conduits, objects imbued with an energy that defies logical explanation. As Arthur steps back to survey the painting in its entirety, he cannot shake the feeling that it holds something far darker, than he initially suspected. The shadowy figure in the forest now feels more menacing, as though it is watching him in return, its presence no longer confined to the brushstrokes. Yet the most troubling realization is that the changes within the painting might not be random at all. There is too much structure, too much intent hidden within its shifting elements. Arthur wonders if the painting is trying to reveal something, or perhaps conceal it. With every clue he uncovers, the line between art and the supernatural begins to blur, leaving Arthur with a profound sense of unease as he delves deeper into the mysteries that surround him. Now turning to the eerie clues hidden within the painting, Arthur begins to scrutinize its every detail with a new sense of urgency. His historian's eye, honed by years of studying ancient texts and symbols, catches what others might overlook. As he examines the misty forest closer, he notices something initially dismissed as artistic texture: faint inscriptions etched into the bark of the trees. These are not random scratches or imperfections, but deliberate markings, almost like fragments of an ancient script. Though the symbols are unfamiliar, they seem to pulse with an unexplainable significance, as if they hold a forgotten message waiting to be uncovered. Arthur leans in, squinting at the shadowy figure whose presence has haunted him since the painting came into his possession. Its position seems unchanged at first, but then his breath catches. It is not standing in the same part of the forest as before. Only now does he realize that the figure's movements each night are not arbitrary. By meticulously comparing its current position to the faint outlines of its earlier placements, still faintly visible like ghostly afterimages, Arthur begins to see a deliberate pattern emerge. The figure is not merely wandering aimlessly through the painted woods. It appears to be tracing a path, a route that grows clearer with every shift. The implications send a chill through Arthur's spine. It feels calculated, as if something or someone is guiding it toward an unknown destination. But why? This question consumes Arthur, amplifying his unease with every passing moment. The more he studies, the more unnerving discoveries he makes. Hidden amidst the dense foliage, faint shapes begin to materialize: figures, faces, perhaps even eyes, all watching from the shadows. They are not obvious, requiring just the right angle of light to become visible, but once noticed, they are impossible to unsee. It is as though the painting itself has layers, each one revealing something more sinister than the last. And the more Arthur uncovers, the more he feels like the painting is doing something far beyond just shifting. It is communicating. Arthur begins to question whether the painting is showing him a story, perhaps one tied to its enigmatic creator, Elias Greaves. Or worse, what if it is not just a story, but a warning? The weight of the painting's gaze feels heavier now, almost oppressive, as if it holds some intent of its own. Every shift in the figure's position, every hidden detail uncovered, leaves Arthur with the uncanny feeling that the painting is alive in ways he cannot comprehend. The boundaries between his world and the one depicted within the frame feel increasingly fragile, as though forces beyond his understanding are beginning to overlap. It becomes clear that the painting is no longer just an object in his study. It is an active presence, and yet Arthur cannot bring himself to look away, even as unease grips him. With every discovery, the painting's secrets seem to pull him deeper into its labyrinthine mystery. The more he questions reality, the less certain he becomes of anything, leaving viewers to wonder, where will this path lead, and at what cost will the answers come? As the next challenge unfolds, Arthur finds himself unable to ignore the unsettling presence of Margaret Dawes, his enigmatic neighbor. Late one evening, driven by a gnawing sense of paranoia, Arthur notices her lingering near the study's window, her silhouette framed against the dim glow of the manor's lights. Her gaze feels unnervingly deliberate, fixed on him as though she has been observing his every move. Mustering his courage, Arthur steps outside to confront her. The chill in the air does little to dampen the tension that simmers between them as he approaches. When he calls out to her, Margaret doesn't startle. Instead, she turns with an expression that is equal parts solemn and knowing, as if she has been expecting this moment. Arthur demands to know why she has been spying on him. Margaret, unflinching, avoids a direct answer. Instead, she softly says, "It has begun, hasn't it, the painting? It never stays silent for long." Her cryptic words stop Arthur in his tracks. Before he can formulate a response, she steps closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "You should not have brought that into your home. There are forces tied to it that you don't understand, forces Elias Greaves toyed with at a great cost." Arthur's skepticism wars with his growing unease. He presses her for more details, a clear explanation, but Margaret remains evasive. She only warns him of Elias Greaves' dark obsession with capturing the boundary between the living and the dead, hinting that his works carry remnants of those he exploited in his pursuit of artistic perfection. Margaret's words grow more disconcerting as she alludes to the painting's cursed reputation. She mentions others who had once owned it and met grim, unexplained fates. Yet every time Arthur demands specifics, she pulls back, her eyes darting nervously to the shadows as if fearful of being overheard. Some truths, she murmurs, are better left buried. The more you dig, the closer it comes. Her ominous statement only fuels Arthur's frustration and curiosity. Why wouldn't she just tell him what she knows? Before he can press further, Margaret abruptly retreats into the night, leaving Arthur standing alone in the cold, her parting words echoing in his mind. "Be careful what you seek, Mr. Benson. Not every mystery wants to be solved." Arthur is left with more questions than answers. Margaret's warnings add a new layer of dread to the painting's mystery, but her refusal to elaborate leaves him doubting her intentions. Is she truly trying to help, or does she have an agenda of her own? This puzzling encounter only deepens the labyrinth Arthur finds himself in, driving him to uncover the truth not just about the painting, but about those around him who seem tied to its dark narrative. And as Arthur returns to his study, one unsettling thought lingers. What if Margaret's cryptic warnings are all part of the painting's design, pulling him even further into its web? As the next phase of the mystery unfurls, Arthur's mounting obsession with the painting drives him deeper into his research. Determined to unearth answers, he scours Ashgrove Manor's extensive library late into the night, poring over historical accounts and art references tied to Elias Greaves. The breakthroughs come in fragments, each one leading him closer to a horrifying realization. Among the brittle pages of an obscure art journal, Arthur discovers mention of a diary belonging to Elias Greaves, a supposed key to understanding the artist's macabre creations. His search leads him to Isabel Knight, the elusive artist and local expert on Greaves' work. Though hesitant, Isabel finally agrees to speak with Arthur, her voice laced with trepidation as she admits she possesses the original diary, passed down through her family, who had once been tied to Greaves' inner circle. Reluctantly handing over the aged, leather-bound book, Isabel warns Arthur of the peril within its pages. If you read this, you must be prepared for what you may find. Some knowledge cannot be unlearned, she says, her tone heavy with regret. Back in the confines of his study, Arthur delves into the diary, the candlelight casting flickering shadows that seem to dance with the unease growing within him. The entries detail Greaves' descent into a dark, obsessive pursuit, his belief in capturing the essence of life and death within his art. Most chilling, however, are the references to a ritual that Greaves performed, guided by what he referred to as a watcher in the void. It becomes clear that the painting is no ordinary masterpiece, but a vessel, a portal designed to ensnare the living. Arthur's blood runs cold as he deciphers the grim purpose of the shadowy figure in the painting. According to Greaves, this figure represents a soul trapped within the artwork, bound to remain as part of its twisted narrative, with each nightly change symbolizing their gradual loss of humanity. Worse still, Greaves writes of the painting's insidious nature, its ability to draw in new victims through fascination and fear. Arthur pieces together the chilling truth. The shadowy figure was once a living person, lured into the painting's grasp, and now it is his own reflection in the figure's place that he fears may soon emerge. The thought grips him with a terror unlike anything he's ever known. For every night the painting changes, its hold on him grows stronger, edging him closer to becoming its next prisoner. In that moment, the weight of Margaret's cryptic warnings return with haunting clarity. Arthur now understands what she meant about the painting's design, the sinister allure, the subtle manipulations, all meant to pull its owner ever closer to their doom. With this shocking revelation, Arthur realizes his time is running out. The painting, with its insidious grip, is not just a mystery to be solved, but a battle for his very soul. As the next challenge unfolds, Arthur realizes the urgency of his predicament. The painting's changes are accelerating, the shadowy figure growing more defined each night, and with every passing hour, he feels his connection to the mortal world ebbing. Determined to break the curse before it consumes him, Arthur plunges into action. Drawing on his knowledge of ancient texts and his exhaustive research, he compiles a desperate plan. He identifies a potential means of severing the painting's power, a purification ritual mentioned fleetingly in Greaves' diary. The ritual requires an intricate combination of elements, a rare herb known as blackthorn root, an obsidian dagger etched with protective runes, and a binding incantation concealed within the pages of an old tome in his library. Arthur wastes no time scouring the dusty shelves of his study to locate the necessary items. The tension mounts as he struggles to decipher the faded passages, the words seeming to shift on the page as though resisting his efforts. With ominous whispers echoing through the empty halls of Ashgrove Manor, he ventures into the countryside under the cover of night to retrieve the elusive blackthorn root, its twisted branches casting sinister silhouettes under the pale moonlight. The air grows heavier as he returns to the manor, the shadows in the corridors stretching unnaturally, as if the house itself were conspiring against him. As Arthur prepares for the ritual, a knock at the door startles him. It is Isabel Knight, drawn by a foreboding sense that Arthur may face the same fate as those before him. Reluctantly, she offers her assistance, revealing a hidden page from Greaves' diary that she had withheld, a critical piece of the incantation Arthur had been missing. Her arrival is both a relief and a source of unease, for her presence seems to stir the painting, its colors vibrating subtly, as though aware of their interference. Finally, the moment comes. Arthur and Isabel stand before the painting in the dim light of the study, the air thick with an oppressive weight. The ritual begins, Arthur's voice steady as he chants the incantation, the blackthorn root smoldering in a brass bowl. The painting reacts violently, the shadowy figure writhing, its form contorting as if attempting to escape or resist. The room becomes a storm of chaos, the candle flames flicker wildly, the temperature drops sharply, and the painting itself begins to pulse, its surface rippling like water, disturbed by an unseen force. With a final surge of determination, Arthur raises the obsidian dagger and slices through the canvas, the blade glowing faintly as it meets the cursed fabric. There is a deafening roar, a scream that seems to echo from another dimension, and then silence. The painting collapses in on itself, a void consuming its remains, leaving behind only an empty frame and a chilling stillness. But as the dust settles, Arthur notices something that sends a shiver down his spine. A faint, almost imperceptible outline of the shadowy figure lingering on the empty wall, as if a trace of the painting's curse still lingers, waiting, watching. As the sun rises on the next chapter, we find Arthur standing in the study, the faint outline of the shadowy figure etched on the wall serving as a haunting reminder of the ordeal he narrowly survived. Though the painting is destroyed, its lingering presence leaves him with an unsettling sense that his battle with the unknown is far from over. Ashgrove Manor feels different now, quieter, yet heavy with the weight of what transpired. Arthur wastes no time in taking steps to rebuild his life, beginning with the careful documentation of every detail of his harrowing experience. His journals, filled with sketches and annotations about the painting, Greaves' diary, and the ritual, become both a way to process his trauma and a means to warn others about the dangers of Greaves' cursed legacy. Resolute in his mission, Arthur vows to ensure that no one else suffers the same fate. He contacts antique dealers, historians, and local collectors, weaving a network to track down other works attributed to Elias Greaves. His quiet determination leads him to uncover chilling rumors of similar paintings, each tied to inexplicable disappearances or tragedies. Though he no longer seeks to personally confront these items, he works tirelessly to identify and hide them away, ensuring they cannot wreak further havoc. With time, Arthur begins to rebuild a sense of normalcy at Ashgrove Manor. The study, once dominated by the cryptic painting, is transformed into a space of light and warmth. He fills it with pieces of art that speak to beauty and life, rather than mystery and despair, a quiet defiance against the darkness he encountered. Visitors to the manor, unaware of its recent history, find Arthur more reclusive but quietly resolute, his demeanor shaped by the wisdom and scars of his ordeal. And yet, late at night, when the manor falls silent and the wind rustles the leaves outside, Arthur often finds himself drawn back to the empty frame that he has kept. It is a reminder not just of what he overcame, but of the mysteries that may still be out there. One question lingers in his mind, a question that he suspects may haunt him forever. Did he truly destroy the curse, or was it merely contained, waiting to re-emerge? As Arthur reflects on his journey, he cannot ignore the possibility that fragments of the painting, or worse, other cursed works by Elias Greaves, may still exist, hidden in the corners of the world, waiting to ensnare their next victim. The thought brings both dread and determination, for Arthur knows his story is a cautionary tale that others must learn from. And so he leaves us with one final question, one meant to linger in the minds of all who hear his tale. What would you do if you encountered a painting that seemed alive? Would you dare to unravel its mysteries, or would you walk away, leaving its secrets undisturbed? If you found this tale as hauntingly compelling as we did, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay curious but tread carefully.